Okay, in this video I'll show you how to remove a background here. This background here is a couple of different colors in it. And I just want to grab my image without the background. And notice here there's some hair here, there's some feathery hair coming out there. That'll make it difficult to remove the background without removing some of that. So probably the best way to do it is to create a layer mask, and let me show you how you can do that. Here's your layer window here. If it's not on, you can go to Windows, Dockable Dialogues, and then turn on your layers there. Okay, so first thing you want to do is create an alpha channel with this layer. So you're going to right click on it, choose Add Alpha Channel. Okay, and then what you're going to do is right click it and duplicate that layer. So we have two of the same layer. This one on top is the one we're going to manipulate here. Okay, so on this layer, the first thing we want to do is desaturate it. We want to take out the color. So I'm going to go up to colors here on the top, and I'm just going to choose desaturate, desaturate again. For mode here, just leave it at luminance, that's fine. Click OK. And once you have it desaturated, the next thing you want to do is invert it. Okay, so we're going to go up to colors again, and we're going to go to invert. Okay, so once you've inverted it there, now my image here is lighter and the background's a little bit darker, so that's a good start. Okay, so the next thing I want to do now is I want to darken the background. The easiest, quickest way to do that is to use levels. Okay, so again, we'll go to colors and we'll go to levels. And with levels here, we're going to play with these. And here I'm just dragging this dark slider over just to darken everything in the background as much as possible. That looks pretty good there. And we can even lighten this image here too, so that's good there. And then maybe a little more over here, darken that up. That looks pretty good right there. Click OK once I play with my levels. Now there's a few things there I need to paint out. Again, if I turn the eye off here, you can see there's a thermostat right there that needs to be adjusted. This is hair right here, I think, part of that, so I may leave that. And maybe I'll just paint that out. And then a couple of different areas over here that I may want to deal with too. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint out all the background black. And the idea here is that anything that's black when we're done will disappear. Anything that's white will stay in the picture, okay? So that's the logic. It's dark light contrast. So I'm going to grab my paintbrush up here. Size, probably want to bring the size up here a little bit. That's probably good. And the hardness will go 100%. I'll leave the force at 64. And make sure your foreground is black, your foreground square up here. Okay, and then we're just going to go in and color over some of this stuff. Okay, and looking around, I've got most of it done, it looks like. Just a few spots that need to be dealt with there. So it looks pretty good already. So it looks good right there. And then the next challenge is we want to preserve all of my image. So that it needs to be white. Okay, so we're going to go in. I'm going to change my foreground color to white up here. And I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to color my whole image in white. I can bump that size up there and do a lot of it quickly. Here, let's go up higher than that even. And just do all the major stuff quickly here. Careful there, I don't want to get too much along the edge. And then it seems strange that it works this way, but that's how it works in the world of graphics. The lighter areas are going to show up, the darker areas are going to disappear. Okay, And this is again a way that you can get rid of your background while preserving an image. Okay, so if I hit Control Z, notice there I undid all that. So it's a good idea to take your finger off the mouse once in a while so it remembers your strokes there so you don't lose them. Okay, and we're going to do the fine detail with a smaller size of our brush here. So that's a really good start there. Fill that in right there. And right there. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in and do my edge work very carefully. Grab my paintbrush. Again, we want to come down with the size and just kind of slowly work our way across the edges here. And notice I didn't change the hardness of the brush. I just want to get that sharp edge like the picture has. You just fill this in. Again, take my finger off the mouse a little bit. And again, see, I noticed I made a mistake there, so it was good that I took my finger off the mouse because it's tough to do, especially if you're just using a mouse. Okay, and then we want to paint in all the hair, pretty much. Okay, so we'll leave some of the edges there, and I'll customize that a little bit. Okay. All the solid stuff mostly I'll get right here. Okay, and some of that I'll probably have to paint out later. Get the rest of the shirt here. See, there's an edge there. Take my finger off the mouse just to remember what I did. Messed up there. Okay. I'm going to get most of the edge work here out of the way. Then the hard part will be doing the hair on the edges, or it can be. It just depends on how much you want to try to wash away later. And for the most part, you get most of it there. And I think that looks pretty good. I don't know if I want to paint over the white over here. What I'm going to try to do is now I'm going to try to go and... Oh, wait, we need some of this here. Then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the edges. There's a little trick I do. It works quite well. Looks pretty good. And then try to leave some of it where it's not solid, so you want some dark showing in through it. And then I could probably get rid of this too because these aren't connected. So let me switch over to black here. And I'll just eliminate that. We'll just pretend it's not there. I don't think I'm going to fuss about that little wisp of hair. Okay, so that looks pretty good right there. Now, this is white, but notice it's darker than the stuff I colored in. So I'm going to try to match this a little bit more by going into levels again. So I'm going to go to colors, levels one more time. And I'm going to try playing with these. And notice there that the white is coming out, but it's thickening up too. So I want to be careful. If I go to output levels, notice there now I'm losing the black. So any work that I'm going to do is going to be right up here. Okay. And notice there as I slide this over, notice how it's lightening the tips here. So it's giving me those wisps of hair without having to fill them in with just straight white. And that looks pretty good right there. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And notice here I've got some artifacts here, so I can also now go back one more time with the brush. And just get rid of those artifacts. Okay. Ones that aren't needed there. Just kind of clean up the edge work a little bit. That looks pretty good. Right here. And so that's the idea, is to get a unified white image that's going to show up over black. Okay. So once you do that, now we can zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. Or actually, I'm not going to copy it. I'm going to cut it. So Control X. I'm just going to cut that. And now once I've cut that black and white image I've created, I'm going to come here and I'm going to create a mask. So I'm going to right click on the layer. I'm going to add a layer mask. And you want to make sure that white full opacity is selected. That's your default. You want it to be white full opacity. Click Add. And there's my layer mask. So now you have to click on the actual layer mask in the layer, the white dock there. Click on it. And then I'm going to paste that other layer that I cut by hitting Control V or Edit Paste. And there it goes. So now that I've put that black and white image back in here, the black is disappeared, and notice the color is showing up. Okay, and then the last thing you want to do is you want to connect these together by anchoring the floating selection here. So we'll go down here to the bottom of the screen underneath my layers, the green anchor, and I'm just going to click that to anchor the floating layer. And now notice these are all part of the same layer, and that'll allow me to create a new layer down on the bottom here. I'm going to hold down Shift, click on the document here to create a new layer, move that one underneath this layer, and now I can add any color background I want because I don't have anything there, so it'll be much easier. So I'm going to click on my foreground square. I'm going to add a nice blue to highlight some of the orange and yellows, the complements. So click on my paint can, and voila, I have a solid background now behind my image. And so the last thing I might want to do is clean up some of this sloppy looking these artifacts on the edges here. And one way to do that is to click back on the mask, the black and white that's part of this layer. So I clicked on the mask. I'm going to change my foreground color to black again. And once I do that, now I can grab my brush. Well, first let's zoom in. I'll show you why. And then these lighter areas, I'm just going to kind of get rid of those, and I'm going to turn down. When I grab my paintbrush, I'm going to bring down the brush's opacity, or better yet, maybe the strength, the hardness and force. Bring those down just a little bit. Come in here and just kind of clean things up a little bit. There we go. Just kind of get rid of some of the thick edges there. And go around and just do the lighter, some of the lighter edge work there. And again, this requires you to really zoom in, but it just makes it a little more like there's background there. Okay. Let's bump that up just a hair. There we go. Again, you can just sort of darken these areas. Kind of make it a little more see-through again to the blue. Okay. All right. If you start to see the darker color peek through, you can always go back to white here and bring some of it back. Okay. Back to dark here. So the dark will take away a little bit of the image there. That just helps you clean up a little bit. Okay. Okay, let's zoom out and look at it and see where we are. And so there you can see you can still preserve some of the wispy hair. And also kind of clean it up a little bit too. Okay, and so once you get your image cleaned up the best that you can, so this here I would get rid of if I can here. Just kind of clean it up. And then if those dark images start to show up too, I can always go in here and clean that up too. Just simply go into the picture part of the layer. So I'm clicking on the actual picture, not the mask. And I'm going to change the color to blue here. Actually, let's go on this layer. Change the color to blue. Now I'll go up to this layer and grab my brush, and I can just sort of fill in those darker areas of blue again. So you can see you can actually clean up those areas too a little bit. And so this is one way that you can get rid of a background and still preserve some of the details, the fine details of the hair and things like that. And so now I'm left with this image. I can go in and do my change the colors here. I want to achieve more orange tones and yellows to match the complement of the blue, so I may go to hue saturation, maybe just simply adjusting the hue a little bit, saturation, lightness, and try to bring out those yellows and oranges a little more in the skin tone. That looks pretty good. It's too much there, so just got to be careful how much you adjust here. Then you can achieve the more complementary colors to for your complementary image.